Instead, she gave me a deep look and hung up. Then she looked at me, smiled, and said, "Mom, it's almost time." I smiled faintly. This moment had finally arrived. With that, Cherry stood up and gave me a secretive look, and she did something that everyone watching the live stream couldn't have imagined. Cherry's smile didn't reach her eyes as she stepped back from the wheelchair. The hand that had been gently holding mine a moment ago dropped to her side, fingers curling into a tight fist. The soft, tender tone she'd used just seconds earlier vanished, replaced by a cold, sharp edge that sent a chill through the live stream. Even the comments section, which had been overflowing with anger at me, fell silent for a beat. "Mom," she said, her voice low and steady, "do you remember what you promised me 12 years ago?" I didn't move. My gaze stayed fixed on the potted sunflower on the balcony railing. Cherry had bought it last month, saying it would brighten up my days. The petals were wilting now, just like the lies we'd both been living with. Cherry laughed a short, bitter sound. "Of course you don't. You never remember the things that matter to me. But I do. I remember every single word." She turned to face the invisible camera, as if she knew exactly where it was hidden. Her eyes were no longer filled with warmth or sadness. They were hard like shards of ice. "Let me tell all of you a story. 12 years ago, my mom wasn't just paralyzed by accident. She was in a car crash that she caused." The comment section erupted. "Wait, what, she caused the crash? Is Cherry losing her mind? Why would she say that about her mom? This is getting weird. I thought she was the perfect daughter." Cherry ignored the chaos unfolding online. She walked over to the bookshelf in the living room and pulled out a dusty photo album. Flipping through the pages, she stopped at a picture of our family. Me, her father, Shane, and Cherry, all smiling on the porch of our old house. "It was taken a week before the crash. She was drunk," Cherry said, her voice trembling slightly but not with sadness. "With rage, she went out drinking with her friends, even though she knew she had to pick Shane up from soccer practice. On the way, she ran a red light and hit a motorcycle. The rider died instantly, a young man only 23 years old. He had a fiancée and a baby on the way." My throat tightened. I tried to forget that night. The sound of metal crumbling, the screams, the smell of alcohol and blood. Cherry had never let it go. She'd been in the car with me. She'd seen everything. The police wanted to arrest her. Cherry. DUI and manslaughter. She would have gone to jail for decades. She begged me to lie for her. She said if she went to prison, Shane would grow up without a mother. She said she'd make it up to me for the rest of her life. She promised that when the old house was demolished, give me all the compensation money, enough for me to start over, to get away from this family. She slammed the photo album shut. But what did she do? She gave all $8 million to Shane. The same Shane who didn't even visit her in the hospital after the crash. Same Shane who called her a paralyzed old loser yesterday. The same Shane who was too busy playing video games to help her when she couldn't even get out of bed. Shane, who'd been napping in his room, stumbled out at the sound of the commotion. "What the hell are you talking about, Mom? Didn't cause any crash." "You're lying." Cherry turned to him, her eyes blazing. "And I ask her about the night of October 12 years ago. Ask her about the men she killed. Ask her why she let you believe she was just a poor, innocent victim." Shane frowned. He looked at me, then back at Cherry. "Mom, is this true?" I finally spoke. My voice was hoarse from years of deceit and years of guilt. "Yes." The stream went wild. Comments flooded in, faster than the system could keep up. "Oh my God, I can't believe this. So the mother is a criminal, and Cherry has been covering for her all these years. That's why she's been so filial. She was keeping her mom's secret. But why did the mom give the money to Shane then? That still doesn't make sense." Cherry answered the unspoken question. "Because she never cared about me, not really. She only kept me around to be her alibi, her caregiver, her excuse for living with the guilt. She thought if she pretended to love Shane more, everyone would pity her. Pity the poor, paralyzed woman who's stuck with a daughter who's only nice to her for money." She walked back to me, leaning down so close that her face was inches from mine. "You thought I'd never find out, didn't you? You thought I'd spend my whole life taking care of you, never asking for anything in return. But I found the police report. I found the letters from the victim's fiancé. I found your diary, where you wrote about how annoying it was that I wouldn't let you forget what you did." Shane stumbled backward, his face pale. I didn't know, Mom. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you're her golden child," Cherry said, sneering. "You could do no wrong, even when you stole my college fund to buy a new gaming console, even when you lied to Dad and said it stolen his wallet, even when you left Mom to rot in that hospital bed while you went on vacation with your friends. She still loves you more than she'll ever love me." I closed my eyes. She was right. I'd been a terrible mother. I'd chosen Shane over her every time, not because I loved him more, but because I was scared. Scared that if I didn't call him, he'd leave me too. Scared that Cherry would one day wake up and realize she deserved better than to be trapped with a murderer. For a mother. But Cherry wasn't done. She pulled out her phone, the same one she'd ignored earlier, and held it up for the camera to see. On the screen, screen was a video call connected to a woman with dark hair and a scar across her cheek. "This is Lena," Cherry said, "the fiancé of the man my mom killed. She's been looking for justice for 12 years. And today, she's finally going to get it." Lena's voice came through the phone clear and steady. "Margaret Hale, I've been waiting for you to admit what you did. I've watched your daughter take care of you, watched you play the victim, watched you give away the money that should have been mine. Compensation for the life you took from me and my son." The comment section was a mix of shock, anger, and confusion. So the daughter is working with the victim's fiancé. This is insane. Nothing about this family is what it seems. What about the $8 million? Is Lena going to sue for it? Cherry hung up the call and turned back to me. "You thought the live stream was your idea, Mom? You thought you could expose me and make everyone hate me? But this was my plan all along. I agreed to the live stream because I wanted the whole world to know the truth about you, about what you did, about how you used me for 12 years. She walked to the door and grabbed her coat. "I'm leaving. I'm not going to take care of you anymore. I'm not going to be your alibi. I'm not going to let you ruin any more lives." Shane stepped in front of her. "Wait, Cherry, where are you going? What about Mom?" Cherry looked at him, her eyes softening for a split second. She made her bed. Now she has to lie in it and Shane grow up. She's not the victim here. The man she killed is his family as I am. With that, she opened the door and walked out. The sound of it slamming shut echoed through the apartment. Shane stood there frowning. He looked at me, then at the empty doorway, then at his phone, where the live stream was still running. Millions of people watching our family fall apart. "I don't know what to do," he mumbled. He sounded like a lost little boy, not the arrogant man who cursed me just yesterday. I didn't answer. I couldn't. All I could think about was the young man on the motorcycle. His face, his smile, the way he waved at us before the crash. I tried to erase him from my memory, but he'd been there all along, haunting every moment of my paralyzed life. Shane suddenly fell to his knees. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry I never helped you. I'm sorry I called you names. I'm sorry I was such a jerk." But his apologies meant nothing. Not to me, not to Lena, not to the man who died. The live stream continued for another hour. Reporters called my phone nonstop, but I didn't answer. Shane tried to feed me, to clean me, to talk to me, but I just stared at the wall. I was trapped, not just in a wheelchair, but in the consequences of my own actions. Chapter 5. By evening, the story had gone viral. Hashtag murderer mom, hashtag perfect daughter life, hashtag justice for Lena was trending on every social media platform. Police issued a statement saying they were reopening the case based on the evidence Cherry had provided. Lena gave an interview to a local news channel, holding up a photo of her fiancé and begging for the public support. Shane spent the night on the couch, tossing and turning. Every time he tried to talk to me, I ignored him. I finally gave up around 3 a.m. and then went to his room, slamming the door behind him. I was alone on the balcony, watching the sunrise. The wilting sunflower was still there, its petals now completely brown. I reached out with my left hand, the only one I could move slightly, and touched the rough surface of the pot. It was a metaphor for my pretty on the outside, rotten on the inside. Just then the front door creaked open. I thought it was Shane come to apologize again, but it wasn't. A man stood in the doorway. He was tall with gray hair and a scar on his jaw. He was wearing a black jacket and jeans, and his eyes were fixed on me. I recognized him immediately. It was Detective Miller. He'd been the lead investigator on the crush case. 12 years ago, he suspected I was lying, but he'd never been able to prove it until now. "Margaret Hale," he said, walking into the living room. "We need to talk." I didn't move. I didn't speak. What was there to say?